Hey there, micro folks. This is Mr. Hooker, and this is video number 2 of Perfect Competition. Let's go. So, what we got here, profitability, 2 of 3. So, once again, we are the profit per unit, looking at the profit, they're at 72 minus the ATC 5760. That's the 1450 times the 50 units. Gives you a total profit of 720. So like I said before, you're going to take revenue per unit, which is the 72, minus the cost per unit of 5760. That's going to give you your profit per unit, which is 1440. And then you're going to multiply it times the number of units, which is 50, and that's going to give you that um, whole thing of profit, the total profit. Then you can do the same thing for loss. Oops, my bad. Down here, oops, do that whole thing for loss down here where you've got there it's 30. So you're at 40, and that's 56. So you're going to go 56 minus the 40. Um, and so, and then times the 30 units. So that's the way that would be for your loss. So profits, total revenue minus total cost. Um, and then the other way to do it, if you're doing it with the averages, price minus average total cost times quantity. So the break-even price of a price taken firm is the market price, at which it earns zero profit. And remember, that's economic profit. So profitability in the market price. Um, this is the loss that we're looking at there, but up top, you had the 72 and then the 56, right? And then times the 50 units. On the bottom, you have the price of 40, and then a 5867 ATC. Um, so 5867 minus the 40 gives you an 1867 loss, and times the 30 units gives you a $560 loss. So the production decision. So if you'll remember, I think last chapter talked about in the short run you make a production decision, in the long run you make an investment decision. So losses don't mean immediate shutdown. You got to pay your fixed costs regardless of whether the firm produces in the short run or not. Since that can't be changed, fixed costs are relevant to the decision about whether or not to produce in the short run or whether to shut down in the short run. So variable costs do matter. So when the market price is below minimum average variable cost, a firm should shut down immediately. The minimum average variable cost is equal to the shutdown price. So I did mention this when we did average cost in the last chapter, that your AVC was your shutdown, was the cost that would determine your shutdown. So your minimum AVC, if that ever gets above price, not any point of AVC, but just your minimum AVC, if that goes above price, then you shut down. Shutdown is temporary. You can shut down and you just basically don't pay your variable costs. So you're going to send all your workers home. You won't pay your wages. You'll shut down your utilities. You don't pay those. And you're not going to order material. So you don't pay your input costs. But you still got to pay your rent, your loans, and your insurance. So all your fixed costs are still being paid. Now, when conditions improve, you'll come back to business. You'll hire workers again. You'll order inputs, all that stuff. You'll turn the lights back on. So, you'll start work again. Now, if things get bad enough, or they are extended periods of time, it goes for an extended period of time, you exit. An exit is permanent. So exit means you are going to sell all of your assets. So you will sell your capital, If you own your building, you will sell your building. You'll cancel your insurance. You'll sell all the loan, all your capital, everything like that. And so nothing will be left. Um, so it's kind of crazy. The funny, well, it's not really funny. I guess it is kind of, but like you have firms occasionally in certain locations that have these going out of business sales, and they have them for extended periods of time. They're not really going out of business. They just think that that's a great way to have a sale. So I've been in a couple of locations where courts have ruled like either A, you got to go out of business, or B, you got to quit having a going out of business sale. Like these people had a going out of business sale for, you know, 6 to 10 years. And so, you can't do it that way. You can't, eventually you got to go out of business. Um, so I was in Knoxville for 6 years, and Brown Squirrel Furniture had a going out of business sale the entire 6 years I was in Knoxville. So, and then when I was young in Charleston, Heilig Myers, I think it was the name of the business, was the name of the furniture store. They had a going out of business sale the entire time I was in elementary and middle school. So somewhere about 8 years, they had a going out of business sale. They got sued by some competition. They had to quit that. So it's kind of crazy how that works. Um, Price is greater than minimum average variable cost. Firm should produce. Um, Short run individual supply curve. Uh, so the firm will produce at every price above the minimum ATC where price intersects the marginal cost curve, but stop producing in the short run if the market price falls below the shutdown price. So the marginal cost curve above the shutdown price is the firm supply curve. So the marginal cost curve is basically your supply curve, everything above the shutdown price. So how do you change your fixed costs? Really, you don't. Buying and selling the equipment allows the firm to change its fixed cost. Firm will choose the level of fixed cost that minimizes average total cost for its output, and that may mean closing down altogether. So you'll pick the level you want. That's kind of what we were talking about last time. Pick the level you want and go with it. So here's some things about that. If price is greater than minimum ATC, you're profitable. If it's equal to minimum ATC, and in the long run, it will be equal to minimum ATC. That's where we tend to. So we will always go towards zero economic profits, which means we will tend toward price equaling the minimum ATC. So you're going to break even, no entry or exit. Price is less than minimum ATC. Firm is unprofitable. There'll be exit from the industry. Profitability, if price is greater than minimum ABC, firm produces in the short run. If price is equal to the minimum ABC, firm is indifferent between producing in the short run or not. And if price is less than the minimum ABC, it's going to shut down in the short run. Short run industry supply curve. The industry supply curve shows the relationship between the price of a good, the total output. Short run industry supply curve shows the quantity supplied by an industry. By the industry depends on the market price given and a fixed number of producers. If the short run market equilibrium and the quantity supplied equals the quantity demanded, the number of producers is a given. So short run market equilibrium looks like this. Quantity supplied equals quantity demanded, and everybody is okay with it. I mean, doesn't mean you're happy. Firms would like to sell more, consumers would like to pay less. But market price is 72 and we'll sell 5,000. Okay. Long run market equilibrium. New firms enter as long as there's profit, as long as price is greater than the minimum ATC. So market's in long run equilibrium when the quantity supplied equals the quantity demanded. Um, and so at that point, entry and exit have somewhat ceased. So we have gotten to that point where we have hit the end of entry and exit. So this is what that would look like. increase in demand in the short run and the long run. So we're at 72. Well, let's say we started at 56. Increase in demand raises the price to 56, going to 72. Um, so the demand goes from D1 to D2. Supply goes up from S1 to S2. That brings it right back down. Um, Bam. So price had gone up. And then when the supply curve shifts out, it brings it right back to normal. And then you see in the third panel in C, the price falls right back down to 56. So it goes up when the demand shifts, supply then shifts because, hey, price is higher, firms enter. And then once the firms enter, price falls again. Everybody reacts. Everybody reacts to incentives. That's the one thing you can always count on in economics. Hey, incentives matter, and people are really big about dealing with those incentives. Long run supply curve is flatter than the short run supply curve. Higher price attracts new entrants in the long run, raising the industry output and lowering the price. So the fall in price induces existing producers to exit in the long run, reducing industry output and raising price. So long run supply curve is perfectly elastic. If costs are constant across the industry. If each firm, whether it's been there for a while or if it's new, faces the same cost structure. In the long run, industry supply curve slopes upward when producers use an input that's in limited supply. So as the industry expands, the price of that input goes up, and later entrants have a higher cost structure than early entrants. So like beachfront resort hotels. So there's a limited quality of prime property. Like there is only so much beachfront. We are not creating new coastline. So you have to kind of understand that. So if you hadn't got some already, chances are you're not getting any. So industry supply curve slopes downward when an industry faces increasing returns to scale. Average cost falls, output rises. So whether the long run industry supply curve is horizontal, upward, or downward sloping, long run price elasticity of supply is higher than the short run price elasticity, even with free entry and exit. So economic profit. So why would a firm want to enter an industry if the market price is only slightly greater than the break-even price? So economic profit is the measure. So the market price above the break-even level, the firm can earn more in this industry than elsewhere. And The Lion King is a good econ movie to check out. And that is all for us. So we will see you in chapter 16, which is about monopoly.